Welcome back. In our last segment, we focused on the race for the White House, but 2 weeks from tomorrow, voters will also determine who controls Congress. And for most watchers, that means control of the Senate. To win the House, Democrats have to flip 30 seats. That's a tall order. But only 4 Senate seats have to flip for the upper chamber to go from red to blue. That's assuming that Hillary wins the election. And it looks like Democrats are at least halfway there. Wisconsin, Illinois, and Colorado look like locks for the Democrats who are running. Wisconsin and Illinois are currently Republican seats, so Democrats need to win just 2 other seats to control the Senate. Here are the other states that are in play with more than enough chances for Democrats to win the 2 seats they need and hold on to Nevada, where a Democrat is retiring. So let's check the poll numbers on all of these, and you can see the Democratic leads in Indiana, New Hampshire, and Nevada. And Democrats are in easy striking distance in Pennsylvania, Missouri, and North Carolina, where polls have shown that both parties, their candidates, have leads in individual races in recent polling. That explains why Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren were in New Hampshire today, looking not only to nail down the state for Clinton, but also for Senate nominee Maggie Hassan. And they're not alone. President Obama, among other Democratic surrogates, barnstorming in states with close Senate races and linking Republican candidates with Donald Trump as a reason they should not be elected, as he did with Nevada Republican Senate nominee Joe Heck.
All of a sudden, these Republican politicians who were okay with all this crazy stuff, up to a point, suddenly they're all walking away. Oh, this is too much. When you finally get them on tape bragging about actions that qualify as sexual assault and his poll numbers go down, suddenly that's a deal breaker. Well, what took you so long? What the heck? What took you so long?
So Democrats are attacking Republicans who support Trump and attacking Republicans who have turned their backs on Trump after supporting him at some point. And they're using this as an argument against Republican Senate candidates. But some big-name Republicans are attacking Republican candidates who are trying to distance themselves from Trump. Top of the list, Mike Huckabee, who actually put it pretty plainly, tweeting, "If GOP loses Senate, it's not because candidates ran with Donald Trump, but because they ran from him." And then just to show the effect of Trump on the entire election, no time for wimps and wusses. That's, by the way, former, pastor? Or who's a, right. Yeah, wimps and wusses. Welcome to the Trump electoral process of 2016. How should Republicans handle Donald Trump at this point? Because it seems like, Giancarlo, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. No. They stick with him, they're going to get attacked. They turn away from him, they're going to get attacked.
That's right. I mean, they're in an unenviable position. And frankly, like every local race, and Senate races oftentimes are just that, local races, you have to do what's right for your district, for your state, et cetera. If you are someone like Kelly Ayotte, Donald Trump is not popular in your home state of New Hampshire, but you need his supporters in order to be reelected to the Senate. And she tried to have it both ways and cut the baloney pretty thinly when she said something like, well, I endorse him, but I don't support him, or I support him, one of the two. And that didn't work. They're in a very difficult situation, as is Paul Ryan, as is every national Republican. And there's no easy answer. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that you keep your loyal base on your side, while at the same time not scaring the heck out of the moderate swing voters that you need in a state like Nevada, which is a swing state, to break your way.
But it does look, Jonathan, like these candidates are trying to have it both ways, whether they stick with Trump or whether they abandon him and are now coming back to him, as I think somebody else did today. I mean, they really are in a tough spot. But that flip-flopping sense of whatever they think the polls tell them to do, that's not going to play with Trump voters.
You know what? It's not going to play with Trump voters, but ultimately I think what he said was absolutely right. You need to toe the line. You need to be able to try to get both. You want the Trump voters because they're going to come out and they're obviously not voting for Hillary or Democrats, so they're yours for the taking. Yet at the same time, you need some moderates, you need independents, and you need women in particular really to help put it over the top. And so they are towing a line that ultimately is going to lead to their demise because you can't have it both ways. And I think Democrats are going to retake the Senate. They'll probably end up with 51, 52 seats. And that's why you see such a push by Obama, Michelle, Barack, and Hillary, and everybody, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders running around, because of how important the stakes are. I mean, I think the Democrats will only control the Senate for 2 years because the map in 2018 is really bad. But during those 2 years, I mean, you could have 2 to 3 Supreme Court vacancies. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that is a generational shift on the court, and that's why the stakes are so high, and that's why nobody's playing any games around here. It's a big deal.
Even if it is only for 2 years, because, I mean, Jonathan's right. There are so many more Democrats who are on the ballot in 2018, right. And it's just like a political show to look ahead to the next election because we're not done with this one yet. But How big a deal is that for Democrats?
It's as big a deal as it was for Obama when he had Democrats in control when he
But he had
first
both.
came into office.
He had both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I believe it's called between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
That's where the Republican candidates are. And you pointed to the debate in New Hampshire in which she said, yeah, he's a role model, and then the next day I think she put out a statement and said he's not.
She said neither is a role model.
Right. That's the position. How do you get around this? You got to get that vote, but any reasonable person finds Donald Trump despicable. So what do you do? My answer would be is that you politely distance yourself from him and pray that the energized Trump base doesn't abandon you. And I don't know if that's possible. I really don't.
I assume going on vacation in the last 2 weeks of an election is probably not a good idea, but it might be for some of these
You
Republicans.
have to give an answer, and you have to be consistent. I mean, that's the bottom line. And there is a way to live between the rock and the hard place, and that's to say, so many of the things that my nominee has said I disagree with. I'm a Republican. I will likely support the Republican nominee. You won't even have to name him, but when he says stupid stuff, you call him out on it. And that's what Paul Ryan has done. I mean, Paul Ryan has threaded the needle about as well as it could have been threaded throughout this entire process.
But now you've got Trump and other Republicans essentially attacking Paul Ryan for his wavering support of Donald Trump. I mean, you talked before in the last segment about the possibility of a split in this party.
Yeah.
How much is Donald Trump doing to actively cause that split?
I think Donald Trump is doing everything Donald Trump can do for Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't care about the Republican Party on November 9th.
Maybe not intentionally, but what about the practical impact of what he's doing?
Well, absolutely. But I and you and I have had this discussion in prior shows. I happen to think that the talk of an implosion and a generational split and a schism in the party is vastly overblown. That is not to say that my party does not have problems, issues that we need to work out after November 8th. But I happen to believe that when Donald Trump exits stage left, a whole heck of a lot of our problems go out the door with him. I don't believe, Jonathan, he's going to stick around. He could try to create this media empire. But no.
Doesn't his voters go with him?
My party has not historically been kind to losers in presidential elections, all right? And the example that I always give is Sarah Palin. I mean, you look at the temper of the electorate right now, this should have been her moment. She should have been able to step into the void and play a huge role with voters as agitated as they are. Yet she's nowhere.
But it's non-college educated white men that are basically the base of the general national Republican Party, and there are less of them. And the current nominee has done so much harm against women and minorities that there just aren't enough non-college educated white men.
I don't believe the party has suffered the hit to the brand to the degree that people think that it has. I think he has done it, but I think a lot of folks, look, there's polls out there that basically show who would you prefer to have control of Congress. That number is still virtually in a dead heat between Republicans and Democrats.
But if Republicans feel like they've been jilted by the system, and that's why they're backing Donald Trump, and maybe half of his supporters are doing that, some percentage of his supporters are doing that.
By the way, a lot of those are Democrats.
Those issues, though, are still going to be there after Donald Trump.
Pennsylvania.
So that can
about
certainly goes on.
100,000 Democrats have switched parties in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to vote in this election, and they've switched to Republican. And my argument is, which party, when the dust settles, is better able to capture those concerns? I would argue it's the Republican Party.
Though I'll just point out, most of those people defected from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party before the primary so that they could vote in the Republican primary. I think we've seen less of that in the general election. Okay. Up next, another Bridgegate bombshell. Bridget Kelly, the woman behind the traffic problems in Fort Lee message, says she told Chris Christie about the political payback plan before and during Bridgegate. We're going to get into that and the political implications in New Jersey next.